So yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. What we mentioned on for today would kind of be the focus of mentorship. And the idea is just kind of reflecting on what does that look like for us to show up. Before we even start there, just kind of hearing from you all of what do you all think of this. But I think the first thing that highlights for me, if we're going to start to talk about this topic, is how do we create the spaces for connection and community to happen, right? Because it's not a lot like, okay, I want to sign up for mentorship and I'm going to put my name on a list. Really, it's how do we create, in a sense, third spaces? They're called third spaces, which isn't home, it's not work. It's where we can come together informally, outside of hierarchy, outside of obligation to be somewhere, in a sense. And really, what does it look like to build that sense of connection and community? And I think that topic's coming up more and more, just seeing how I think with the way our society is, and I think it goes cross nations, cross cultures in some ways. I think it's becoming harder and harder to find these third spaces or find these areas of connection in the community. It's really, what does that look like for each of us to be able to intentionally show up and be present in places, put ourselves in those positions. One of my favorite authors is Jim Wielder. He talks about just how do we grow, how do we mature, how do we even heal, and it comes through maturity with being in community. Those that are weak or those that are strong in different areas all coming together and doing life with one another. And so that includes, bumping up against each other with some of our unhealedness. And, yes, we are going to, get maybe a little bit of a bruise but even those things aren't so bad in the sense of if it's confronting for us, if it's putting a mirror, be able to depend on one another. And I think this topic of interdependence, and rather than hyper independence and individualistic kind of perspectives, what does it look like as a collective body to embrace these topics? I know that you might have some things to share, even as it relates to like the jiu-jitsu community, but what are some insights you have? And then we can um, open it up and kick the conversation around.
The idea of mentoring, we're talking about, for me, I see a lot of the lens of discipleship. Like I see the people that have discipled me. I always look at them with the lens of they being my mentor. And of course, a lot of times when we talk about the word mentor, it can look too much as a gap between one person and the other. But when we think about mentorship, I think like it was a very dynamic relationship. Like I have many people in my life that have mentors. Some still do. And one of the things that, I have learned when it comes to mentorship was I need mentorship in so many areas of my life. And there was a season that I was looking at one person that would mentor me in all the areas. Then I started realizing you start growing, you start doing things, you start realize like, okay, maybe I get like someone that is gonna mentor here on the business side, the financial side, or somebody else is gonna mentor me on the spiritual side, and you start having all different areas of my life, but also having different people in each area so you can see from different angles. And that has been an absolutely blessing on my life. And that's what I try to do in the other way around. Andy T, he's on the call here. He says all the time, right? We should constantly have a mentor. We should constantly be having mentors, and we should constantly having peers. So it's this dynamic. If you're being fed, you're feeding, but you're also doing the walk. And sometimes it's very easy to gravitate to one of those things, but the combination of these three things is extremely powerful. I'm learning from somebody and doing life with that person, but I'm also putting out on somebody, but also doing life with them, but also sharing just lateral learning sideways. And there is so much power in this kind of mentorship, that the lateral part. That's something that I'm trying to be very intentional lately.
When I hear you say what I think you bring up a good point, even though you didn't say it fully this way, is even, what is mentorship? Because it's not just a one way for one person speaking from a place of authority over somebody else, but could it be just a mutual exchange rather than just somebody always on the giving end or somebody always on the receiving end. Got more people coming in. Hello, Amanda. Hello, Brent. And then Joe is also coming in. So thanks for joining us.
Sure.
Welcome, Joe. Joe is, spoiler alert, is my mom. Nice to have you on here.
I don't know the mix of the community here, but I think Jesus gave some great examples of that because as you see when he was doing his ministry, what's recorded in the Bible, he would meet people and he met them where they are. Like he really developed a connection, would touch their heart. And I think a practical that can be in a very practical sense what we do because what I've really realized is that so many people are hurting or dealing with items in their life, right? And we know that just because we have items that come up in our own life, but so many people are really hurting and when they meet someone who really cares about them and who does things for them, it stands out. It's different. And I know just through writing a card or meeting someone for coffee, serving them, just showing an interest and that you care, you can really begin to build your own community because people just don't do that, and it's rare. It's really rare. And so as we use our business and we reach out to people and try and connect with people, and it's amazing what people have going on in their life because people have trials and struggles and whether it's financial or health or something with their children and just to meet them where they are. And then I'll tell you from my experience in the Navy, the the times where people still keep in touch with me or when I went over and above to do something extraordinary for their life and their career. Like if their family was having a struggle or they needed to meet a career milestone, they wanted to live in a certain place or go to a certain place for school. When I spent a lot of time investing in them, that stands out. People remember that. It just for me, it was really a because um we're naturally selfish people and we always look at ourselves. So it takes the extraordinary different action that's counter to the stream of life to really, get involved in people's lives. And yeah, anyway, I just thoughts. I don't know if you had thoughts on that.
Yeah, so Amy, your opening, everything that you opened with, we could unpack a lot of that. There's a lot of different angles, and you mentioned a lot of things, but at first you started talking about how do we create community, and the goal really is to not just kind of go through life just doing life stuff, but to impact other people. And the first thing that came to mind for me, because this is like at the forefront of my mind and I'm seeing it more and more, is just in the course of our life, in the course of doing business, with the presence that we have online and with social media, that is another area of community. And as much as like people, especially our age, or, we just want to connect with people in person, we don't want to have to do this, online social media stuff, but that's where people are and you have to go meet them where they are and you are influencing people. So there's the idea of what Tony's talking about is about being mentored. And we have prayed for mentors to come into our life, and they have, and it's made a profound difference in certain areas. And then but the impact that we can have, you have no idea who's watching you, and you have no idea the influence that you're having on people online. And you may never know, but then there will be people who will respond privately, and or people that you are going out intentionally when someone sees something that you've posted and you're intentionally going, who do I need to connect with here? Who needs to hear from me? I just I we're doing this, we're practicing this on a weekly basis, and I was just able to go have coffee in person with someone this past week, and they just let open the floodgate. I had no idea what was happening in their life, but it's these intentional connections with people and I was able to connect her with somebody else, somebody that she really needed help. And so I would just say, the connections and the community that you can build, it's not just where you live or in your workplace, but it's also online. And that is, that's something I think, we need to pay more attention to, be more intentional about.
And I'll end this with just that's how God designed us. He designed us for connection and community. Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, it doesn't matter. God designed you to be around other people. And, introvert and extrovert, I mentioned that because she's an introvert, I'm an extrovert, and how we like to connect and the size of the crowd, but we both see it as very important. And it's so important. So I'm glad you guys are discussing.
What stood out for me as you guys were talking is one, just the power of showing up, the power of presence. You don't need to have all the answers and what that looks like. And even not having to be in the exact same space, even being on social media, maybe never even meeting the person. And I guess that even opens up the question of, or the definition of what is a mentor, because could a mentor even be somebody who wrote a book that you've never even read, that you've never met before, but you've read their book? 100%. So any thoughts coming up from anybody else on the call?
It just reminds me that I guess in Brazil it'd be like kicking a soccer ball around, right? So but it's just understanding that that being there and then showing up, obviously, but also showing up in a way that you let the person know that you care. And they said something about, I forget the statistic, but it was something along the lines of, if a child has 3 people who are adults that that are outside of their, father and mother, that they know that loves them, they're like something like 60% of them are like more likely to stay in school, like not get involved in drugs and all these things like that. And so one aspect of mentorship that I hold pretty dear to my heart is kids will take an infinite amount of discipline if they know that they're infinitely loved. And so if the kids know that they're loved infinitely, then they'll be able to receive kind of some of the feedback or some of the discipline that you may put out to them because they know that you have their best interests at heart. So just a few thoughts as you guys were speaking about that. It just reminded me of mentorship being, like Tony had mentioned, there's like the plus, the minus, and the equals. Like the plus is where you're receiving the mentorship. Equal is like a contemporary where you guys can share ideas, thoughts. And then the minus, even though I feel like it's not the best illustration of minus, but it's you giving so that you're taking away from what you have to give to someone else. And so it's that constant creating that space, whether it's, sports teams, jiu-jitsu academy, your book club, like it's always that forefront in my mind of finding people that I can receive, give to, and sometimes one person can be all 3, and so it's kind of a beautiful thing that, I may know something, I may have more experience in one aspect of, or a particular topic, and then someone else might have something that they're interested in. And so it's just having that connection and being able, like, actually interested in what people have to say or what's going on in their lives, I think is a huge part of that mentorship.
Hey, I just wanted to jump in. Amy kind of led with how do we create this third space? How do we do it? I feel like this could be it. I don't think it needs to be overcomplicated. I think by just gathering people together on a Saturday morning from around the country and the world, talking about what's going on in our lives, possibly asking for assistance or prayers, I think that pretty much knocks it out of the park. I think that's what it's all about. Um, we always talk about it's consistency and showing up, right? No matter what we're doing, whether it's work, life, marriage, jujitsu, studying for tests, which I drill into my kids' head. They're gonna hate me when they're older, but it's all the same. It's all the same thing. We apply it to different aspects of our life, but it's all the same theory. So yeah, I just hope that maybe this will be the springboard where we get to know folks that we never would have probably crossed paths with, and then as this moves forward on some sort of consistent clip. We're able to then add value or glean value from each other to take from Andy and his thoughts. And yeah, I just want you to know that I appreciate all of you on this call. Even though I don't know all your names yet or about your lives, you're God's with you. So have a great day, everybody.
I like what you're saying is like, we don't need to overcomplicate it. This is that, Joe, mother. A thought is when I think about third spaces, she's doing something at what she's turned her house into, your home into, to create a third space for people to come. Do you want to share a little bit about what that has been for you and what you're doing to create a space for connection and community?
So hearing what everyone's having to say, I'd like to just add that I do feel that I'm making an impact on people, but I see a lot of people throughout the week. So I have a nonprofit animal sanctuary, and I've also created a wildlife habitat where people could get in touch with nature. And during the visits, I constantly tell people that this is not property that I own, and it's a heavy responsibility. And I want people to see the natural world and see animals as something to be respected and show them what peace they can have when they sit in nature. So when I'm with the people, I may never see them again. It may just be one time, but it's to be heard. They need to feel safe to explore things and not have parameters. Like if they are in the wildlife habitat, they make an observation, it's never criticized. And I see what we could try to expand on that. And I want them to talk about it and think about it. I think we all have an opportunity in our daily lives to have a positive impact. We may never know what we've achieved in that, but so I'm in the country and I have terrible internet, and I just got a message my internet connection is unstable, but I hope you got enough of that to understand. And maybe Amy, you could kind of interpret that for me.
Now we heard you loud and clear at the end of that, but what I know and what I heard you say, what I think is beautiful is creating a space for people to connect with nature, but in a sense, connect with themselves and connect with God, and let them just observe without it being judged as good or bad. Just really, what do you see? And in a sense, what you're describing is creating psychological safety for people to just show up and take off the stress or take off what they think things should look like and literally just observe and almost come to see themselves and see the world as, in a sense, it would be. So now I'm actually really curious because it sounds like, Tresor, that you're doing some unique work in Congo where is your home. I would love to hear your thoughts.
Okay, thank you for the floor. At Congo, I'm a teacher at school. I'm a Sunday school teacher. I'm a Sunday school teacher since 2008. And what I should take, I should speak. I think about the kids because I spend more time with kids, and what I remark is the more than I think what the people in the new generations are different for the older generation. For the new generation of kids, I remark that they are more concentrated for technology, other things. That's why we are there to teach them how they should be at school and everywhere.
Thank you. It's so needed. And I guess all of us can even reflect on who those people have been in our own lives, even as kids. And it's so formative, the younger ages. So often seeds are planted at the youngest ages that affect us throughout our entire life, in the sense of when somebody believes in us and thinks, man, you can do this, or I see brilliance in you, I see gold in you, or speaking life and identity, and what you're describing of showing them who God has created them to be and the value that is put on their life and the value of others. I think it's key. And then the opposite of that too is how often there's been words maybe not measured well that have become lies on people's lives, that they have taken on a lie and that has then affected their entire life. Any other thoughts? I know there's a few people that haven't shared yet. Gabriel is in Brazil, not too far away from us.
I mean, I'm actually still thinking about what Rich was talking about and what Chris was talking about the mentors, what it is to be a mentor. And when they were talking, I thought about like the idea of quality time in one of the love languages. And I feel like when you're mentoring someone or you're being mentored by someone, you're being intentional in spending your time with that person. So even that is not one of your love languages, right there, the quality time, you've been loved by that person, you're loving the other person. So I believe that when you're mentoring someone or you're being mentored by someone, the main goal is to actually to love that person or to be loved by that person, and then you can actually evaluate the kind of mentor that you're receiving or that you're giving by the love that the person is receiving or the love that the person is actually that you're giving to that person. And I feel like when you're doing that through a honest place and from like a pure heart, I mean, things are just gonna happen naturally. You don't really need to put a lot of effort. You don't need to overcomplicate things. Just like Chris said, you can be just simple. You can just have like just do life with them. And I feel like the small things are kind of like are going to start showing up in your life. Like, for example, I've been training with Tony like every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I feel like waking up earlier out of for no reason is being part of my routine right now. I mean, I just woke up really early today and I didn't have any reason for that. So I was like, okay, I can see that it's kind of like becoming more natural to me. And I don't know, but one thing that also Rich said about being extroverted and introverted, I mean, God just made us to be around people. And doesn't matter how we are and how we are actually feeling. But the thing is to show up and to just be around people that really care for us and really want like just to be with us. I don't know. I don't know if it makes sense.
So good. I want to just chime in real fast and just say that I think I, or like we as people, overcomplicate it sometimes. It's really just like doing life with people. And I think your mom brought up such a good point with the animal sanctuary and everything. And it brings out the therapist side of me of just like connecting people with their five senses and like whether that be, I think Andy said like throwing a football, like kind of just like touching things or like with the animal sanctuary, just kind of like being around these animals and stuff. It really can calm people and kind of get them into a place. I think when you make it so like formal or whatever, that can almost make it feel uncomfortable. But if you just like kind of come alongside, and I think Andy said like go to a coffee shop or whatever, just come alongside people in life. I have found my greatest mentors have just been people I've done life with, and then I've just asked them like, do you mind like sharing more about like what's going on with you so that I can kind of learn from it. And I think that I used to be so scared to ask people to kind of like pour more into me, but I realized most people want to pour into you if you just like kind of ask them. And then kind of the same way, I have seen the more that I've given and like mentored people, I feel like the more people have come in my life to like mentor me. So it kind of just like flows naturally almost when you're giving and just when you're seeking it out. And so I think that it's a beautiful thing though, because you kind of do have to be in community to have those people just around you organically. So
Still too much time, but to jump back in to build off of that, one of my favorite things in life, and this is me being sarcastic, is LinkedIn, right? Um, because I will connect with somebody and then they'll ask me immediately all kinds of crazy favors and things, which I ignore immediately. Um, so I think really what you're talking about is just being authentic with people. Because people can tell when you're asking, from an authentic place, or that you've made an authentic connection with them. I think that the information share flows, if you will, whereas it's very apparent that you're just out to almost take advantage of somebody, right? I mean, it's like a cat when they get scared and their back goes up in an arch and all their fur is prickling up, like you just feel it. So anyway, good point there, Becca.
So I'm going to ping off that, Chris, because I think what you're really getting at is adding value to other people. And, when people like on LinkedIn, that's a great example. They just jump on you and they want stuff from you. And I think when you lead from a place of giving people value and not asking for anything, and you do that consistently, then people learn that you're somebody that can be trusted. And building that trust is really hard to do these days because it seems like everybody does want something from you. So I think that's a great thing that I just wanted to add.
No, and I'll chime in that too. I mean, we're both in real estate, and you're taught people won't do anything until with you in terms of a business deal. Like if you just approach them on something, very rarely will people do any kind of real estate transaction. They have to know, trust, and like you. And if they know, trust, and like you, and you have that rapport built with them, and that comes through community. I mean, people are, they'll do that because I think people have to sincerely I think they have to see that we're sincere and to see that, we're not just about ourselves. We're trying to like
That
you
it's
guys are saying,
relational,
yeah,
it's not
relation, pour
transactional.
value in there
Yeah.
and serve and give. And and that's really where community's built.
I think personally, like I'm piggyback on what everyone said. At the end of the day, you have to create the opportunity, right? Like I think mentorship is a process for sure, but there is a beginning, right? And in order to do that is whether you're meeting them at their level or you bringing them up to your level, right? Like Rich said, like meeting the woman at the well, like Jesus could have easily gone around that town and gone a safer route, but instead he chose to go through a town that hates Jews and to find the woman that needs that help, right? And I think, that's one thing that I love about jujitsu. It's like it doesn't matter your background, it doesn't matter where you came from, it doesn't matter how much money you have or don't have. It's like we're all starting from the same place, and it's interesting because like if you come in cocky, Tony will gladly humble you, right? And if you come in like scared and there is all like about creating an opportunity for everyone to like learn and be loved. And I think I don't know, I think that's why like jiu-jitsu as a platform is just an amazing concept. But beyond that, in terms of like I guess creating a mentorship, is the first thing that I thought of when Amy was started the coffee meeting. It's like at work, I found out like the easiest way to get to know somebody is when they're going for a drink of water at the water fountain, or if they're in the hallway, just like walking towards a break or something, and like catching them and I guess to what Rich was saying, meeting them at when they're open and when they need help or when they need a break. And but at the same time, it's like what's difficult is like identifying those opportunities, right? It's like at what point, to like Chris's point, it's like at what point am I being used and at what point am I providing value? Um, and I think that's at least for me growing up, that definitely was a gray line because like my mom would always say like you're spreading yourself out too thin, you're doing too much, or like you're helping people too much. And I was like, well, that sounds wrong. Like what does it mean to help people too much, right? But then like I think I sacrificed a lot of past relationships. I'm in a loving, great relationship now, and I love my wife. But I could definitely see myself hindering past relationships because of like X, Y, and Z. And I think finding that right opportunity, creating that right platform, and then again back to Rich's point, like meeting them at their level, right? I think that's like the key to like starting that mentorship process. And even like what Andy was saying, right? Like meeting a kid at his level, right? Go out, throw football with him, right? Like the kid doesn't want to come out to a Starbucks and have a coffee meeting with you for an hour, right? He would rather, be outside or doing X, Y, and Z or taking to an arcade and like, talk to them while they're out there. So I don't know. Yeah, that's just all the stuff that was going through my head listening to everyone talk.
To what Kwok said, meeting people where they are is key, and also kind of want to balance that by saying the mentorship might be, it will be difficult. Anytime you get close with somebody else, there is an aspect of how are we building relational equity so that you have that relational equity in order to offend somebody, and not on purpose, not with the intention of offending somebody, but in what ways are we being honest with one another in relationship to be able to speak truth when it's difficult in a mentorship, and in what ways are we revealing Christ to each other when there's an offense made, right? Like, inevitably when you get close to somebody is going to intentionally or unintentionally, and that can be really, really tricky and difficult to navigate. So that's maybe a half-baked idea and a wrench that I'm throwing in the mix here, but just had that thought as I was listening to other people.
That was brilliant. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm watching Rich and Angie like look over at each other as though like you have experience and some insight. So I'm actually curious of your off the cuff thoughts.
So, well, first of all, when she said relational equity, that resonates with us. I think that's a great like term or phrase for that. But
Well, that builds that trust, and
Yeah.
I mean, you're banking that relationship with other people, and so they can trust you because you're not always going to agree. I think to have that relational equity.
But the reason why we were looking at each other is when she was talking about offense, or basically when stuff comes up, and so we're going through that right now.
Conflict. So often we think, oh man, if there's conflict, there's an issue. But maybe conflict it's not that. It's not a bad thing. And if we never have conflict, that should question the relationship anyways. Is this an authentic relationship? Are we going deep enough, or is this superficial? And so in a sense, conflict is a necessary part of any kind of growth, maturity with other people. But to your all's point, Angie and Richie, is this dividing, or is there a level of grace on here, the emotional maturity that it takes? And so, there's times where even, in my own life, there's been conflict that maybe yet doesn't have the closure that I would like it to be, but there's a process that it takes at times. And so giving it a certain amount of time, or doing what we need to do is how am I showing up? Like you're saying, truth and love. And then if anybody has an offense towards you, go to them and to work on that as much as it's in your control. And I think there's an additional thing that's popping up for me when I hear this, many different things, but are we secure enough in our identity to be okay with being misunderstood or accused, unfounded or founded? We're not perfect, and not have fear of man. Now, to such a degree that are we willing to confront and love, or is there areas that we might be wiggling and holding back? I think this is something that I've seen Tony walk out really well, and he's even mentored me in my own life through that.
I was just going to say, like, when we're mentoring people, we're asking them to be vulnerable. And this just happened this past week. So that's why I'm like, it's kind of fresh in my mind. But it's like, if we want people to be vulnerable, we ourselves have to be vulnerable. And kind of to your point, Amy, of like, are we secure enough with our identities and that we're willing to be vulnerable in front of people, even though they may use that against us, and be able to be vulnerable to allow that, again, relationship equity. It's like, oh, if he can be vulnerable, then it's allowing me to have space to be vulnerable as well. So I was like, kind of, heard what you were saying there, and I was like, yeah, this happened this past week where it's like I had to have a difficult conversation with someone, and it was like, well, I have to lower my walls in order for them to come in and receive, and then they can lower their walls. So it just kind of hit home with me when you said that if we're secure, knowing that we're supported and loved. So like I can be able to be vulnerable, knowing that, you know, I've got my back covered. So
one of the things that I have, right, an amazing mentor. His name is Pastor Charles. Becca knows him, and some people knows him. An incredible man, and he used to say to me, we would have tough conversations, right? When I start meeting with him, it was in a season that Amy and I were divorced. So Amy and I were married for 2 years, and right before 3 years, I walk away, and we're divorced for 2 years, and we got married again. And I met him on that season when Amy and I were divorced, and would be talking. Pastor Charles and I would be talking, and he goes like, "For as much as I love our relationship, Tony, I love you much more than our relationship. So I have to be honest enough to tell you the truth in love, even if that is going to cost our relationship." He used to tell me that, and then he would throw the bomb. It would be constantly this idea of, I love you too much. I'm going to do my very best to speak in love, but I have absolutely no control how you're going to receive. And what I have learned with him in that way is, in love, is not only that we have the privilege, we have the responsibility to share things with the people. Either way, if in a position of a mentor or mentee, with the clear understand that one of the greatest expression of love is respecting the gift of choice that the other person have. I don't have to agree, but I will respect the choice of that person, because where there's no choice, there is no love, right? So how do I speak truth, or how I'm humble enough to receive truth, and at the same time find this balance on, I agree, I don't agree, let me bring that to God, but that would not become a stumbling block between me and somebody else. So it's this idea of speaking truth in love. My pastor, Naf, we were talking about that, and he was talking about the root of the word exhortation is actually bring someone closer. That is the true meaning of exhortation. But when you bring someone that close, now you're going to have to say things that you might not be comfortable in saying, but also you're going to have to hear things you might not be comfortable in hearing that. But that's the idea of exhortation in love. It's like drag the person closer to you, drive that closer to you. And like we spoke a little bit a few minutes before, that can only be done as speaking that way or receiving that way. It cannot be done any other way. Every time that I'm going to go have a conversation, that I'm going to speak something that I know might be hard for the person, or I'm going to have a conversation that I'm going to listen to something that I might don't like, or might be both. And as we are diving our life, our call, everything from a position of sonship, everything changes very much.
Just really quick, I feel that one thing that Andy said, and is really connected with that, the idea of vulnerability. And also there was this pastor that I went to the short space a couple of years ago, Harvey, and he always says that people don't get embarrassed. So the thing that the enemy always tries to do with us is that he tries to throw shame, he tries to point the bad things in our lives. And when we are vulnerable, I mean, we're exposed to those things. Those things doesn't really matter. So it doesn't really matter what people are going to point at us. I mean, everything is in the past. So it's the kind of thing that doesn't matter what we did because they also going to see that this vulnerability, it's healthy and brings healing not only into their lives, but in all their relationships close to them.
We'll pass to Brent right now. Brent, we want to hear you, Brent. Brent and I, Brent is the guy. Brent is the beast. Brent and I, we know each other. We met each other from Pastor Charles. He leads and he leads an amazing organization. They do amazing work in the Amazon. And every time that I go to Amazon, you guys saw the picture and all of that, I was under his wisdom, his love, and his leadership.
Well, thanks, Tony. And we know, glory to us, all glory to God, right? I appreciate the opportunity to connect with you all. Tony, I love you, man. It's great to see you. Amy, I can't wait to meet you in person someday. Looking forward to that. And so just happy to be part of this little community that I barely know anybody else, and just sort of seeing Tony's ministry and the things he's done in life. And there's people in life that you connect with and you're like, I want to hang with that guy more. And Tony and Amy are those type of people for me. So I think that's part of what one of the things to do. So let me just, a few thoughts was just being intentional with it. You have to look for this. So God could be a priority, but you have to be intentional as you find people and reach people. And with that, and I love the vulnerability because it's risk. You have to take risk. So in the real world, I'm a consultant in the energy industry. And what I've experienced, and I've also used a little LinkedIn, was, sharing people, the mission trips. What I have found when I go to conferences or I'm in the community, people appreciate, even though they don't like or comment, appreciate the very little content I put out. People don't see me as an energy consultant. They want to talk about the work I do into the jungle. And I think most importantly, we talked about creating relationship. And I think that's so important when we talk about risking and being vulnerable in the marketplace with people. But for me, I try it. If Tony and Amy have something set up and I can figure out how to make it happen and join along, I know they're amazing people and I want to be a part of it. I don't know what it is. And so, Tony, I'm going to be down in Brazil. I think my next trip is going to be Memorial Day next year. And then I was just thinking, well, hey, if you guys are in Brazil that time, maybe I may make the trip up to wherever the heck you guys are and join you either before or after. Do something like that.
We're not very far. We're not very far, Brent. We're not very far.
And I'm just like, hey, this is one of those things, because I think this is all for me. I want to be intentional, and I haven't been able to connect with Tony for a year or two now, and we got to make it happen and go do something. So anyway, great to be here.
Love you, bro. Love you. You're a good man. You're a good man. Keep up the great work. Talk soon.
I'm trying to keep up with you.
What is this? What are we doing? And I'm sure that was the question for all of y'all. And I don't know, it just came up, and it was this idea of create space for connection. And for you all to meet, you're in so many different parts of the world. There's a few other people from different countries not represented on this call that also wanted to join today. And how powerful it is just to have a conversation and see where things go. And I think that's what we've been so passionate about. Jiu-jitsu is exactly that. Somebody mentioned on the call that people, I think it was Quack, that people that otherwise would never meet, but they come together through jiu-jitsu, and then organically these connections are made. And so, for this, but also to glean the wisdom, right? This topic for us is super relevant for the work that we're doing here in Brazil, and coming and reasoning together, and just a good reminder of the priorities coming to the surface. So it's been a blessing for us on this call. Thanks for joining, even without knowing fully what it is. And if you guys are up to do it again, we're down. Any closing thoughts y'all want to share for the last couple minutes?
I do. More than I thought. It's we've been here in Brazil for a year and a little bit, 2-3 months that we officially moved to Brazil to do what we believe is the work that God is calling us to do. And honestly speaking, it has been very hard. It has been very hard. It's been amazing. A lot of great things, but you gotta be able to let it go a lot of things in order to do that walk. It's even celebration to what I'm saying here right now. This is actually fireworks, just so you guys know. It's actually fireworks. And I miss being in the US. I miss, most important, the people in the US. And as we do a phone call and we see you guys and all of that, not only is a refresh on the sense of, man, it's so good to be around friends and to be talking about that and all of that, but it is extremely encouraging to know that we have people not just encouraging us or keep going or keep up the great work, but actually doing the work with us. We do not take for granted you take the time to be in this phone call. We do not take the granted for the time, the messages, the prayers, and the support that we have from you guys. We love your faith. It is also quite amazing to do this walk with you guys. Part of the desire that we have to host and to walk with you guys and eventually having you guys more is almost the desire of, imagine you sit at a table and there's a feast at the table. This amazing food is a never-ending food, and you want to invite as many people as you can to enjoy this food, to enjoy this thing. And that's how we feel about you guys. It's incredible, and we don't take for granted. I want you guys to know that we do not take for granted. It's much more than time, energy, and all of that. Is a matter of relationship and heart condition. So thank you very much. Thank you guys. Have a good one. Thank you very much.